She was just standing on the deck enjoying the view, but someone suddenly shoved her hard. She fell straight into the pool below, but the killer had no intention of letting her go. He closed the pool cover above, trying to drown her completely inside. The heavy coat made it impossible for her to float. She struggled with all her strength to remove it, but it was too late. The pool was already fully covered. Then she noticed it was the view pool of a guest room. She knocked on the glass desperately, trying to get the attention of the guests inside. The woman lying on the sofa noticed her first. "Oh my God. What? What's the matter? Help her. Help her. She's bleeding. Help her." Luckily, they noticed in time. Lola was quickly rescued. But this wasn't the first strange thing she encountered. Ever since she boarded the luxury yacht, strange events kept happening. Lola is a star reporter at a newspaper. She specializes in covering sensitive news topics, like exposing corrupt officials or leaders embezzling project funds, even murder cases. Every single piece she reports on becomes a viral hit. But fate hasn't treated her very fairly. The reason Lola works so hard is simply to climb higher. But the awkward thing is, the stories she reports on more or less offend the big sponsors, so she inevitably becomes a target of the capital forces behind them. As a result, Lola is never truly valued at her newspaper. They always find excuses to send her on leave. "Lola, you don't need to return to work today. Take some time off. I'm really not good at this vacation thing." Ironically, Lola felt she still had to find opportunities on her own. Coincidentally, she had just received an invitation. It was from a local corporate chairman, a man named Pierce. Unlike before, this time she wasn't asked to report anything negative. Instead, Pierce wanted Lola to write a promotional piece for him. It turned out his wife, Mary, had just been diagnosed with cancer. To save his wife, and to help people around the world who suffer from the same cancer receive treatment, Pierce set up a cancer treatment fund. And for this reason, he specially arranged a grand signing ceremony on a luxury cruise ship. He invited all the major shareholders of the group. Since it's a fund, ordinary people can invest in it as well. That's why Lola was invited to help promote it. You have to understand, this was no small matter. All the company's shareholders would be on the ship. For Lola, this was the perfect chance to expand her network. How could she possibly miss it? She immediately boarded Pierce's luxury cruise ship. But things soon turned awkward. She originally thought this would be a pleasant trip, relax a little, meet some rich people, and conveniently finish her assignment. Why wouldn't she be happy? But the moment she boarded the ship, trouble found her. Yep, she ran straight into her ex-boyfriend, Ben. He used to be a reporter too, but since he didn't have any outstanding achievements, he got fired. Now he switched careers and became a photographer. After a brief catch-up, the two went their separate ways. Lola then started focusing on her work. Being able to meet these upper-class people face-to-face made Lola incredibly excited. Since the weak can't fight the powerful, she figured she might as well join them. Even her ex-boyfriend was stunned, seeing her, someone so righteous, starting to bow down to capital power. "So are you an undercover journalist now? Get lost. Come on, you used to lecture me for bowing to capital. Don't tell me Lola Blaylock is here just for the money?" There you go again. That's the you I remember. Not long after that, the chairman hosted a special banquet. He invited all the shareholders and his close friends. Naturally, Lola was included. For this banquet, Lola specially dressed up, but unexpectedly, she happened to bump into her ex-boyfriend on the way. You know, Lola had never dressed up like this before. Naturally, she felt embarrassed. She quickly slipped into a random room, trying to avoid his strange gaze. But to her surprise, she walked into an incredibly awkward scene. Lola had accidentally entered cabin number 10. Inside, she found a blonde woman. Strangely, the woman wasn't wearing any disguise. Lola was completely puzzled. Could it be that she's not attending the banquet? But anyway, Lola was really being quite rude. Everyone on this ship has some kind of background. So who exactly was this woman? Lola had no idea. She could only apologize in a hurry and then leave the room. After that came the dinner banquet. This part went off without any problems. Everything was smooth. After dinner, following her plan, Lola prepared to first interview Pierce's wife. After all, the fund was created because of her, to save people suffering from cancer. During their conversation, the wife looked extremely sorrowful, which was understandable after all. She had cancer. Her days were numbered. There was one line that Lola remembered vividly. The wife said, although establishing the fund sounded noble and seemed like an act of saving the world, in reality, it was merely returning all the illegal gains they had accumulated back to the people. No wonder these corporate bosses and executives always believe in something spiritual. Turns out, behind the scenes, they've done countless terrible things. And she was referring specifically to Pierce's group. Not long after, Lola finished the interview. The sky gradually darkened. It was time to rest. But that very night, something happened that shocked Lola to her core. As she was sleeping, she suddenly heard arguing coming from the room next door. What was even stranger was the sound of something heavy falling into the water. Lola rushed outside and saw a woman floating on the surface of the sea. Because it was too dark, she couldn't see clearly who it was. But she immediately noticed something odd. There were bloodstains on the railing of cabin number 10. This made Lola conclude it must have been the woman from cabin number 10 who had fallen into the water. Lola immediately informed the staff. She told them someone had fallen overboard. As soon as the news spread, the captain immediately stopped the ship. They prepared to begin a rescue. Then the captain came to find Lola, asking for details of what she had seen. Lola said it was definitely the woman next door, the one in cabin No. 10. She had accidentally entered her room earlier that day and had clearly seen her face. But right then, a twist struck. The captain said, "That's impossible. Cabin No. 10 is empty. No one lives there at all. The original guest had a sudden emergency." Lola was shocked. "How is that possible? I saw her with my own eyes." Right after, Lola said, "I even saw blood on the railing. But when they came out to look, the bloodstains had disappeared." Lola quickly said, "It's okay. I still have evidence. It was the cigarette butt that drifted over." But when she checked the trash bin, the bin was completely empty. This was extremely strange. Seeing the situation, the captain said it must have been a misunderstanding. He restarted the ship immediately and continued sailing. But Lola was completely confused. The next day, the more she thought about it, how could she possibly mistake a living person? So Lola decided to reinvestigate everything. First, she went to find Mr. Pierce. "It's best to conduct a thorough check," she said. "Even if it wasn't a passenger in danger, it doesn't mean the crew is all safe. Maybe a crew member fell into the water?" So Pierce gathered all crew members on board. After repeated confirmation, not a single person was missing. At this moment, Lola was completely stunned. Was it really all an illusion? Just then, Lola made a major discovery. As mentioned earlier, her ex-boyfriend Ben was a photographer now, right? And he had been working for this corporation for some time. So maybe in his camera, there would be photos of the woman next door. She searched through his files and sure enough, she found one. The blonde woman in the photo was exactly the same woman Lola had seen before. Without hesitation, Lola brought the photo straight to Pierce. She told him to track down this woman immediately. Upon hearing this, Pierce laughed. This photo was taken 5 months ago. As for this woman, she didn't even know who the woman was. How could she investigate? Of course, rich people often host these kinds of parties, and they inevitably invite beautiful women for entertainment. Who knows who invited this girl? How can you track her down? From that point of view, what he said wasn't completely unreasonable. So Lola could only back down once again. But every time she wanted to give up, she would discover new clues pushing her forward. One time while she was showering, someone sent her a threatening message. They warned her to stop investigating. At that moment, Lola understood. It meant that what she saw that night was definitely not a mistake. Someone on this ship had killed a person and dumped the body overboard. So Lola decided she must gather evidence. But how could she find solid, undeniable evidence? Suddenly, she remembered that woman had taken a shower in the room before. So Lola thought, just find the bathroom, and she would surely find some hair. So she risked her life and snuck into room 10 again. And indeed, she found solid evidence. Yes, a strand of blonde hair. She immediately went to her ex-boyfriend. "See? Look at this. I wasn't wrong." There was times someone living in room 10, and she was harmed. But Ben saw everything much more clearly. He said, "Even if you prove all this, so what? We are on their times turf right now. Everyone here has power and influence. Actually, you should say everyone here, times is capital asterisk. People like us can't afford to offend them. If you want to earn their money and still get off this ship alive, you must pretend you know nothing." Lola calmed down. She thought about it and realized he was right. After this, Lola gradually lowered her stance and stopped participating in the investigation. She also actively participated in the banquets afterward. However, as the banquet went on, she discovered something strange again. Pierce's wife, who had previously been very talkative, clear-minded, was now almost completely silent at the banquet. After just a short while, she said her body was too weak and she needed to return to her room. Lola really wanted to talk to her more, but she never got the chance. But not long after that, another incident occurred. This time, it almost took Lola's life. Someone suddenly shoved Lola into the pool. Even worse, that person closed the pool cover. Clearly, this person wanted her dead. It was obvious. They intended to silence her at all costs. Luckily, beneath the pool was connected to the guest lounge. Lola knocked on the glass desperately to draw attention, and people finally rescued her. At this moment, Lola began to panic. Obviously, Ben had been right all along. Lola's investigation had offended someone powerful on board. The hand behind everything had now reached toward her, and they clearly had no intention of letting her live. What made Lola feel completely hopeless was no one believed what she said anymore. Everyone thought she simply slipped and fell into the pool herself, and because it happened to be raining that day, the pool was supposed to be closed. So covering it was perfectly reasonable. Lola had no way to explain herself. At that moment, she suddenly remembered she still had solid evidence. Yes, the hair she found earlier. If she took it out, she could prove someone indeed lived in room 10. But immediately, Lola fell into confusion. After she was rescued, her coat had been taken for cleaning. But that was where she kept the evidence. When she got her coat back, everything inside was gone. Someone had definitely taken it. And now a new question appeared so far. Only her ex-boyfriend Ben knew she had found evidence. So naturally, Lola suspected him. She believed Ben must have done all this. But Ben quickly explained. He said when he was chatting with the rich folks earlier, he accidentally mentioned that Lola had found evidence. Lola was speechless at this. It seemed her ex-boyfriend was not only useless, but even dragged her down. Left with no choice, Lola could only stay on the ship carefully, waiting for the ship to dock, then leave safely. But that very night, another twist struck again. Lola suddenly heard knocking at her door. Lola thought someone was coming to silence her again, but when she rushed out, it turned out to be a woman dressed in black. And Lola had seen those clothes before. Yes, it was the outer coat worn in room 10 that night. Without hesitation, Lola chased after her. And suddenly, everything became even stranger. She clearly saw a corpse being thrown into the sea. It was tossed down from room 10's balcony. So, why was this blonde woman still alive? What happened next was even more bizarre. The woman told her, "Stop investigating. If you keep quiet, you might survive." Lola grew even more confused. She grabbed the woman, and they struggled. But right then, another twist struck again. The blonde woman was wearing a wig, and the face beneath the wig was someone Lola knew very well. It was none other than Pierce's wife. Before Lola could even ask anything, the woman suddenly lost control. She knocked Lola unconscious, then locked her in the basement. During the time she was imprisoned, Lola kept thinking over and over. She couldn't understand any of it until she remembered one detail. Ever since the night the body was found, Pierce's wife had changed. She became unusually restrained and quiet. So Lola formed a bold theory. Pierce's wife might actually be fake, and the imposter, none other than the blonde woman in room 10. Soon, the blonde woman came to Lola again. Lola took the chance to explain her theory. Seeing that her identity was exposed, the blonde woman dropped the act. Just as Lola suspected, the blonde woman was hired by Pierce to impersonate his wife on the ship. Pierce found her through Facebook, someone who looked similar. He hired her just to perform a staged show. Yes, it was all just a show. At this point, we must mention an earlier detail. When Lola chatted with Pierce's wife, the wife said she wanted to start a charity fund to help people. But Pierce claimed the fund was his wife. Clearly, both stories didn't match. And when the real wife wanted to start the fund, Pierce thought she had gone insane. "You died, then died," he said. "But you can't give away all the money." The wife believed their wealth was tainted. Too much harm had been done. It was time to give back. But Pierce refused. Yet he had no real power. He wasn't the true owner of the company. He was, essentially, a live-in son-in-law. So, for his own gain, Pierce chose the most extreme solution. He killed his wife, then hired someone to replace her, finally completing the equity transfer. His goal, to obtain all of her inheritance. Conveniently, all major shareholders and VIP guests were invited aboard. It was the perfect moment to complete the transfer ceremony. No one expected this. The killing was accidentally witnessed by Lola. So the question is, why would the blonde woman who already had a deal with Pierce save Lola? The answer is ironic. When she first agreed to Pierce's plan, he never said anything about murder. But after seeing Pierce kill with her own eyes, she became terrified. Not only that, she also knew Pierce had planned to kill Lola earlier. The blonde woman knew everything. That's why she first warned Lola to stop investigating. Now she was even more afraid of being used and discarded by Pierce. If she helped him finish the ceremony, she might be the next one to die. Lola immediately said, "Isn't it obvious? Do you really think Pierce will give you the life he promised? The only way to survive now is for the two of us to expose him together." Lola's sincere plea seemed to convince the blonde woman. The blonde woman then said, "When the ship docks soon, just sneak off quietly. I'll leave the door open for you." Lola asked, "What about you?" The blonde woman replied helplessly, "I have no choice. I can only stay with him because my daughter needs the money to survive." Ironically, her daughter's illness was the same cancer Pierce's wife had. Perhaps that's why, back then, that's why she chose to help Pierce. Lola said nothing more after hearing this. After the ship docked, Pierce brought the blonde woman with him to proceed with the transfer ceremony. Lola prepared to escape the ship, but she still couldn't accept it. As mentioned at the start of the film, she had always been overlooked at her company. Now, she finally had a chance to rise in her career. And that chance was exposing Pierce for murdering his wife to steal her assets. If she could successfully report it, she would become famous across the journalism world. At the same time, she could also save the blonde woman, who was about to be silenced. The blonde woman, too. Lola decided to return to Pierce's wife's room to search for the notes from the interview that day. It was a script written personally by Pierce's real wife. If she found it, it would prove that the woman beside Pierce was a fake, a complete imposter. Then she could expose Pierce's crimes. But right at that moment, she was spotted by Pierce's men. Since Lola had disappeared, Pierce became worried. He ordered the captain and his men to find Lola and kill her. Only then did Lola realize the truth. Other than the guests, everyone else, even the crew and captain, were actors working for Pierce. No wonder none of them believed her earlier. Just as they were about to kill Lola, her ex-boyfriend suddenly jumped in. For once, this ex-boyfriend was actually useful. But in the end, it still ended in tragedy. Although Lola was saved, her ex-boyfriend died under the siege of several men. Oh my God. Ben, stay where you are. Don't move. Lola was expected to run away after this, but she didn't. She couldn't swallow this anger. She originally had every reason to expose Pierce, and with her ex-boyfriend's death, Lola became even more determined to expose Pierce. So she secretly went to Pierce's banquet. Just as Pierce was giving his speech, Lola suddenly stood up and shouted that Pierce was a murderer. Pierce wanted security to stop her, but unexpectedly, the actual controlling shares were still in his wife's hands. So the wife told Lola to continue speaking. Obviously, the blonde woman now saw hope for her life. She chose to stand on Lola's side. In the end, Pierce's conspiracy to seize power was exposed. He was arrested by the police, and what awaits him will surely be prison. This marks the end of the film. All right, that's it for today's movie. If you liked it, feel free to check out the original. I'm Movie Minute 369. Talking movies. Don't forget to like, comment, and follow. Thank you all for your support and love. See you in the next episode.